So to get started with your first contract, before using DocuSign, you want to make sure that you have an opportunity created in Command. We walk through opportunities in depth in Take Command 03, but opportunities at its core and most basic usage is to submit your documents for compliance review, similar to what we used to do in .loop. So what you'll do is go to Opportunities, which is the icon with the two hands shaking. And then for me personally, I like to go to the All Opportunities tab because that shows me a list of all the opportunities that I have. So for time's sake, I went ahead and I already created an opportunity. So I have 567 Main Street. You can see here, I have all the information. I have my opportunity name listed as 567 Main Street dash Stark Potts dash listing, because Stark Potts are my clients that I'll be listing their home for. So to get started in DocuSign, to get your listing agreements, your disclosures, your purchase and sale amendment documents, all that is done in DocuSign. But what you're going to want to do is link your opportunity to DocuSign. And to do that, click on the Documents tab within the opportunity. And then over in the right-hand corner, you'll see this big button that says Start a Transaction. This is the button that you have to click to link your opportunity to the room in DocuSign. When you link the two together, that's where you get the main benefit of using DocuSign, because you can upload documents directly from DocuSign into Command without having to download to your computer and then upload into Command. So that's going to be one of the main benefits of it. The secondary benefit is that when you link this opportunity to DocuSign, DocuSign pulls in a lot of the information about the transaction for your client's contact information, property information. So it'll just kind of save you a little bit of time and energy because it'll already have that information set up automatically for you. If you start a room in DocuSign.com, you cannot retroactively connect that to an opportunity. You must create the room from within the opportunity. And also, if you start a transaction and you connect it to .loop, you're unable to then switch it to DocuSign halfway through the transaction. So if you're working on a contract that you may have had, started at the beginning of summer, that you started in .loop, you basically can either finish it in .loop, or you'd have to manually upload those documents from DocuSign into that opportunity to finish it out. So now that we walk through the importance of starting your transaction from within the opportunity, I'm going to click Start a Transaction. This is going to connect to DocuSign. It's going to have me log in. Now, I logged into DocuSign earlier this morning, so it remembered my password. But you'll see here, it has created a room in DocuSign for me. So up here in the top left-hand corner, you see the property address, 567 Main Street Stark Potts listing, which is the same name as my opportunity in Command. It lets me know that it was created today on August 7th, and then it has a unique ID number. Now, I just want to point out that ID number because in DocuSign, you do have the capability of emailing documents directly into your room, and you would use that ID number. That's kind of more of a DocuSign 2.0 capability, but I just wanted to point it out that if that's something you want to take advantage of, this is where you'd find that ID number. Now, if this is your first time logging into DocuSign, before you do anything else, you need to confirm your NRDS ID. By confirming that ID, you are letting DocuSign know that you have the right to use the GAR forms, the Georgia Association of Realtor forms, for your transactions. If you don't confirm your NRDS ID, you won't have access to those GAR forms. So you are a realtor, you pay your dues, and you have access to use that copywritten document. So see, you have a quick question here. What is email address to email directly into DocuSign? Let's talk about that towards the end of the training. We can come back and double check that before we finish. But just remind me at the end, and I'll get that address for you. Perfect. So we want to confirm our NRDS ID. There are two ways to do it, and I'll walk you through both. The simplest way to do it, since you're already here in the Documents tab, the first time you've connected or created a room, you can come up to the Add button in the top right-hand corner, click on that, and then select DocuSign Forms. And this pop-up will show you have the Realtor logo and then the Northwest MLS logo. You want to select the Realtor logo since you are a member of the National Association of Realtors. Click on that, and then here you're going to input your NRDS ID. Now, I've only met 2 agents that actually know their 9-digit NRDS ID. So thankfully, DocuSign made this simple for us, and it says find your NRDS ID, and they provide a hyperlink. So you can click on that, and it'll open up a new window that'll show us that we can use our last name, email address, and license number to find our NRDS ID. So I'm going to use my last name and license number. Let's type that in. The reason I don't use my email address is because I can't remember if I used my KW email when I set up my account or my Gmail, and it's just easier to use my license number. So click Submit. Perfect. Here's my NRDS ID. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this and then copy it. And I'm going to close out this window because I don't need it anymore. And I'll come back over here and I'm going to paste that number into that field right there. And now the next step I need to do is confirm that I'm a member of the Georgia Association of Realtors. So I'm going to select Georgia Association of Realtors from the drop-down menu. Just go ahead and scroll all the way to the bottom of the list because Georgia Association of Realtors is about maybe like 12th from the bottom. So we'll just select Georgia Association of Realtors and then click Validate. Now, if this is your first time confirming your NRDS ID, another pop-up window will show here asking you to confirm terms for the Georgia Association of Realtors. Click Accept, and then this window will pop up that'll let you know that you have access to the Georgia Association of Realtor forms. Now, before we start adding any forms, I want to show you the other way that you can confirm your NRDS ID. In the event that something happens, somehow gets disconnected, you could always come to your preferences. So up in the top right-hand corner where you see your initials, or if you've uploaded a picture, click on that and then select Preferences. And then over on the left-hand side, there's a little menu and select Integrations. And scroll down just a bit and you'll see here's our NRDS ID information. You can input your number there. Again, to the right here, it'll have a link that says find your NRDS ID, and you can click on that and it'll take you to that same window where you can use your last name, email address, and license number to find your ID. So you want to make sure that you have that confirmed either here in the preferences or in the Documents tab. Any questions about confirming the NRDS ID? Because you can't do anything in DocuSign until you do that. So make sure that you do that first. Now, if you have any issues, if you get an error message, it likely is because the last name that you have or the name that you have in DocuSign doesn't match what you have with your National Association of Realtor membership. Most commonly, I'd say that affects individuals when they get married. So if they change their last name, maybe their maiden name is different or is when they signed up for the NAR versus now. So you'll just easily change that, or you can email the Georgia Association of Realtors and they can get that corrected for you. So now that we've confirmed our NRDS ID, I'm going to come back to the dashboard. Actually, and you'll see here is my recently viewed rooms of 567 Main Street. So I'm going to click into that. Now we ended up, before I left, we were in the Documents tab. So every time you create a room from command, it'll automatically drop you into the Documents tab, which makes sense because you're going to DocuSign to fill in documents. However, before you fill in any information or add any documents, make sure you go to the Details tab first. So I'm going to click on the Details tab because this is where we're going to input all of the information about our clients, the property, the list price, list date, all of those pieces of information that will then be auto-populated in the documents. It's much easier to go ahead and add that information here in the Details tab than have to manually add it to the documents. That being said, DocuSign does not pull in the information directly from FMLS like it did in .loop. So it's going to take you a little bit more time to add that information, but it's fine because if you do it here in the details tab the one time, you won't have to do it again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click edit in the top right-hand corner, and that's going to make all these fields editable. Now, I want to point out that if you notice, this screen is kind of cut up into kind of 3/4 of the side. Over here is going to be information about the property. And then on the right quarter of the side is going to be information about sellers, buyers, and agents. I'm going to walk through the information on the left-hand side first, because that's going to be all about the property. And then we'll get into adding information about clients. So opportunity name, you can edit that if you want to. You don't need to. I would just leave it so that way it's the same as what is in command. So local currency, we're going to select US dollar. MLS ID, you manually add the ID here. So I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One thing I want to point out before I get too much further is that all the information that I type into the documents today is really for example purposes. This is not a class on how to write contracts or what the right way to write a contract is. Always defer to Lynn and Alita or our Alliance closing attorney partners for all that information. All right, so property information. So this is 567 Main Street. We'll do Atlanta, County, Fulton. We'll select Georgia. Postal code 30342. Property type, we'll do single residential detached. Year built, I'm just going to select 2000. Special circumstances, there are no special circumstances. Perfect. So listing information, so we'll select the list date as today's date. Listing expiration date, let's just do September 30th. Original listing amount, we're going to do 415. Current listing amount, 415. Original, 415. 415. All right. We'll scroll down, offer details. We don't have any offer details because now we're just doing, we're just getting this house ready to be listed. So I don't need to put in closing information or any of this other information. List side commission, I can put 3% and buyer side 3% because that's what I negotiated. Property details, if you have any of this, you can add it, but you don't have to. All right, so that's all of the information for the actual piece of property that I'm going to be listing. Now on the right-hand side, I'm going to fill in all the information for my clients and myself. So you'll see here we have seller 1, and this DocuSign pulled in this information for my seller 1 for Tony Stark directly out of command. So that's one of the benefits of using the system. So it's pretty easy. At the minimum, you just need your client's name and email address. That way the system can email your client the documents to sign. So I have name, cell phone, email, scroll down. I don't need to fill in their address. We have Pepper Potts. We have Pepper's email, so we're good to go. Scrolling down, we have listing agent information, right? So we have my name, my cell phone number here. And then it has my email address, company. Now it's going to default to Keller Williams Realty First Atlanta. I would recommend that you just delete Realty, so it's Keller Williams First Atlanta. Or if you're from the Atlanta Perimeter office, I would just change it to KW Atlanta Perimeter. That way, the name will fit in the fields properly. So we'll fill in address 2, and then we have, we'll add the city, Atlanta, country, United States, state, Georgia, and then 30342. Now I'm going to continue to scroll down because below listing agent 1 is listing agent 2. So if you have a co-agent, you can add his or her information here. And if you scroll down, you'll see now we have fields for buyer 1. So if you are representing the buyers in a transaction, you wouldn't fill in the seller 1 information. You would scroll down and you'd fill in your buyer 1 information. Scroll down, buyer 2 information right here. And then you could list yourself as buyer agent 1. Now it's very important that you fill in this information in the details tab, because if you don't, and you go to send documents in the envelope, which we'll walk through in just a minute, there won't be a contact to send the documents to, so it'll be useless. So make sure that you fill in all of your client's information. One thing I want to point out is you can add your co-op agent's information here, so that way it auto-populates in the purchase and sale agreement, which we'll walk through in just a minute. But I do just want to go ahead and let you know up front, I do not recommend that you ever send a document to a co-op agent from DocuSign. And I'll explain to you why, but I just want to point that out. So if you decide that you want to put the buyer's agent here or the vice versa, the listing agent, that's fine. Just don't ever share the documents or send the documents for signature directly from DocuSign. So scrolling up, just double checking. All right, my listing information looks good. Sellers 2 information looks good, and seller 1 information looks good. One last thing before we jump into adding documents. When you are working on a listing, you can send over the seller's property disclosure, community association disclosure, and lead-based paint disclosure. Those documents can be filled in from within the signing page of DocuSign for seller 1. So when you're working with your clients and you have more than one seller, make sure you confirm with them up front who will be the one that wants to review and fill in all the information for those disclosures. And you'll make sure that they have enough time to sit through and fill in all the information for that seller's property disclosure. All right, so now I'm going to click Save. So all the details are updated. So now we can go to the Documents tab and we can start adding documents. So I'm going to click on Documents up here. And we have 0 documents. So for this as a listing, because I wanted to walk through, I wanted to use a listing as an example so I can show you how to use the disclosures. But I am also going to walk through how to do a purchase and sale agreement. So what you may want to do before you actually even start adding documents is create folders for yourself. In .loop, we had to have a very specific order for our folders 1, folders 2, and folders 3 for when we submitted for compliance review. Well, Lynn and Alita are never going to look at your DocuSign room. So you can have it organized any which way you want, or you can have it as messy as you want, whichever works well for you. But I always want to make sure that people know that you can organize it, so you can create some folders. So if you want to create a folder, I can come up to the Actions button in the top right-hand corner, select Actions, and then select Add Folder. And then here I'll make a Listing Agreements folder. Listing Agreement, and then select Create. So let's give this a second to create and reload. Perfect. So scrolling up, you'll see here we have our listing agreement folder, and then we have our room docs folder. Everything in DocuSign will default into the room docs folder. So you will have to move it to the appropriate folder that you would like. So anytime you get a new signed document, you upload a document, you add a document, it'll default into the room docs folder. All right, so now let's start adding some documents. To add documents, we'll come up here to the Add button in the top right-hand corner, and then select DocuSign Forms. And then we'll leave it on DocuSign Forms Library, and then I can come here to the Georgia Association of Realtors Library. And then we can start searching for the document. So today we're going to use the exclusive seller listing agreement, which is F101. And you'll see when I select it, it says one form selected. I would recommend over time that you start to learn the actual form number. So F101 for the forms that you use regularly, because there are a lot of the names of the forms are very similar. And I can tell you, more often than not, I've selected the incorrect version of a document for my transaction. So that's kind of embarrassing. Then I have to go back and edit and make a whole new one and explain to my client why they were filling out the condo form versus the single family home form. So we have our exclusive seller listing agreement. Then we want the seller's property disclosure. So here we go. We'll select the correct one, not the condo one. Property disclosure, and then we want the community association disclosure. So I'll select that. And then I do also want to walk through the purchase and sale agreement. Now I know that for today's example, I'm going through a listing, So traditionally, we wouldn't be the ones that would put together a purchase and sale agreement. But because I want to show you how to use the document, I want to walk through that one as well. So I'm going to type in F201 because that's the purchase and sale agreement, and I'm going to select that. So I have all 4 of my documents selected. Now, if you're an agent with the Atlanta Perimeter office, Stacy has gone through and she's created groups for you. So if you want to select the DocuSign Forms group, that would then have a list of all the listing agreement forms that you would need, the buyer brokerage, buyer forms, and lease and tenant forms that you would need, as well as all the brochures already put together for you in a group. So that's a little bit different than us agents at First Atlanta. So once you have all your forms selected, click Add, and the page will reload and it's going to add those forms into the Room Docs folder. But I want to make sure that my documents are organized in the correct field or folders. So there's 2 ways that you can move documents from one folder to another. First, you can come over and you can select, if you roll your mouse over the document icon, you can select the circle in the top left-hand corner that appears. And when you select a document, a toolbar appears at the top. And you can select the Move icon. So I would select a destination, so folder in current room, and then select the listing agreement folder, and then click Move. And you can see there that it easily moved into that folder. There's also another way that you can move documents that's a little bit easier. You can just move your mouse over the document, click it, hold it down, and drag it into the folder that you want. So I can drag those. So now I have all of my GAR forms for my listing agreement in the listing agreement folder. Now, if you're an agent with First Atlanta, I want to call out the one thing or 2 documents that you're going to notice are not there are the wire fraud prevention disclosure and the affiliated marketing disclosure. For our office, those documents are found in the envelope. They are templates because there isn't any fields on those forms that you have to edit. So you only add those to the envelope because you need to send them for signature. If you're with the Atlanta Perimeter office, those documents are found in those groups that Stacy set up for you. So you can add those to your room here and you can have them in your listing agreement folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start filling out the forms. So we'll start with the exclusive seller listing agreement. So to start editing a form, just click on it and open it up. Let's give it a second to load. All right, so we'll just kind of start at the top and work our way down. It's gonna be very similar to using .loop, but you'll see here that the property information is pulled in directly from the details tab. So that's super easy to do there. Then legal description, we'll select attach as an exhibit here too. Always recommend that you reach out to one of our Alliance closing attorney partners to get the actual legal description. But to be honest with you, I actually prefer to use the deed book and page just because it's simple, but not preferred. Listing period, so I'm going to type in today's date, so it'll be 8/7/2020, and then I can click tab to go to the next date, and this will let's go through September 31st, 2020. We don't have a calendar function like we did in .loop, so you do have to manually type in the address. So for item 4, negotiation does have the right for listing services, FMLS, GAMLS, and KWLS. Commission, select 3%, or excuse me, we want 6% for the seller agent agrees. And then the broker agrees to pay 3% to the cooperating broker. Protected period, we can just do 90 days, and then agency, we do not have dual agency and sub-agency. So this is really simple. You just go through and fill in the information. One thing I do want to point out is that for item number 3, broker's duty of list price, it'll auto-populate that price that I included in the details tab, but it doesn't include commas. So it'll only have the actual price. So just wanted to point that out. You can try to put commas in here, but sometimes it will give you an error message. So, all right, scrolling down, no special circumstances. We'll keep scrolling. Keep scrolling. And we're scrolling. All right, brochures. All of the brochures are in DocuSign, so you can search for those forms as well. So you can select all the forms that you want to send with the listing agreement. Then we have our exhibit. So we'll make this the legal description exhibit A to the listing agreement. And then if you want to type in any special stipulations, you can type in whatever stipulations you would like to include. That's simple. You can add some more steps. It's that simple. So you can just type it in the field. One thing I really like about DocuSign is that all these text fields are not able to be deleted. So I can't tell you how many times on .loop I was typing in a stipulation and I was like, oh, I spelled something incorrectly. And I was trying to capitalize something and I accidentally hit Shift Delete and the whole box disappeared. And I was like, oh. So I'd have to go through and I'd have to add a new text box, resize it. You don't have to worry about that. You're not going to be able to accidentally delete any of these text fields. Just one more thing to not have to worry about. So scrolling down, we'll see that it adds my clients' names and email addresses directly from the details tab. So perfect. But you'll notice there's no signature box here because all of the signature fields are added in the envelope. So this is good to go. Only thing that we're doing here in the Documents tab is editing the fields to make sure that all the information in there is correct. So scrolling down to the broker information, so it has Keller Williams First Atlanta. Now we'll need to fill in the rest of the information. The MLS office code and license number, and the real estate license number and membership, those don't auto-populate. There have been conversations with the region to see if we can figure out how to have these fields auto-populate since they will be the exact same information on every single form. But just for the time being, fill out the information. So KWFA01, H33313, office fax number, 5708. Then it'll come down to your licensee fax, our phone number, 404-414-8238. And then fax number, 404-531-5708. Georgia real estate license number 37844, and then Atlanta. So just fill in that information and we'll be good to go. So now I've finished everything for the listing agreement. So I'm going to click Save and Close. Let's give that a second to save. All right. The next form we're going to fill out or double check is the seller's property disclosure. So I'm going to click on that to open it up. All right. And we'll see here it pre-populated the address. Good to go. See, we don't need to have an offer date because we don't have an offer yet. We don't need to fill in the exhibit date because this isn't a part of a purchase and sale document. So we'll just scroll through and check all those fields. And then you'll notice there are no text boxes. There are no radio buttons here. There's nothing here that we can fill out as the agent. That is on purpose. As a listing agent, we are not mapped to fill in any of the information on the disclosures. All of these fields are mapped to seller one. So that is to save you from incorrectly filling out any of this information and being held responsible if any of the information is incorrect. So as you scroll through the document, it looks like it's not working properly when in fact it is. It's just you as the agent don't have access to fill in any of this information, and then auto-populated our client's name right there. Perfect. So now I can click Save and Close. And then I'll come over to Community Association Disclosure. And again, the same thing, it pre-populated the property address. I can add an offer date or an exhibit number or letter, but I don't need to. But scrolling down again, the same things with the seller's property disclosure. The community association disclosure does not have any fields or buttons for me to fill in as the agent. All of these fields are going to be mapped to seller one. So we'll scroll through, make sure everything looks good. Nothing didn't accidentally auto-populate. And then we'll see here, seller initials, good to go. So I'm going to click Save and Close. So now, before we start sending documents for signature, I just want to walk through the purchase and sale agreement because that may be one of the most important documents that you will ever use for your clients. So I understand traditionally, as a listing agent, I wouldn't be the one to likely send the purchase and sale agreement, but for today's example, we will. So I'm going to select that. So it opens up. All right. So see, it pre-populated the information for the address. Now we'll just start at the very top of the document and work our way down and fill in the information. So we'll make offer date of today, 8/7/2020. We have our property address. We'll want to add an MLS number. We'll want to add in the tax ID number. We have our legal description, which will be attached as an exhibit here too, because we got it from our closing attorney alliance partners. We'll scroll down our purchase price. So it's listed at $415. So let's make an offer for $410. Now I tried to add, so I have a comma there. I'm going to try to add it. Let's see if it saves. Closing costs, we'll ask for $5,000. Closing date shall be, let's do September 1st, 2020, with occupancy starting at closing. Holder of earnest money, I'm going to put Keller Williams First Atlanta. And closing attorney, I'm going to do Campbell and Branham. Earnest money, we'll just check this box here. You can see it's super easy. It's just as easy as it was in .loop. You just check the box and fill in the information. So we'll do $4,100 within 3 days of binding. Inspection, we're going to request 10-day due diligence period for lead-based paint, was not built prior to 1978. We'll see here the listing brokers, Keller Williams First Atlanta, will select representing seller as client. And then for the seller broker, for the buyer's agent, we'll say they're from Harry Norman. And we'll select listing, select representing buyer as client. No material relationships. And I'm going to give this offer until 12 p.m. on 8/8/2020. So you can see how easy it is to fill in this information in the purchase and sale agreement. I always recommend you to start at the top and work your way down. Just give this a double check to make sure everything's in there. So section 1's filled in, 2, 3, 4. We have holder of earnest money. Everything looks like we've got it filled in correctly. All right. So we're just going to continue to scroll through the purchase and sale agreement and fill in any additional information. All right, so we'll scroll down. All right, so now we have our exhibits. So we can start with our seller's property disclosure. I personally just like to use that as Exhibit A. And then we can do community association disclosure as Exhibit B. Then we'll do the legal description exhibit. We'll make that Exhibit C. And then, traditionally you'd have some type of loan contingency. So I'll do my conventional loan exhibit as Exhibit D. All right, so I selected all those and I added the exhibit letters. Now we'll come down to special stipulations. Just type in whatever you would like. All parties acknowledge and agree to do, whatever stipulations. Again, type in as many stipulations as you'd like. I do want to point out that this box here for stipulations isn't very big. And I know a lot of agents have a handful of stipulations that they like to use on every single contract, and it doesn't fit here. There are 2 workarounds that you can use to make sure that all of your stipulations are included with the purchase and sale agreement. One is you can use the additional special stipulations page. So you can select that and add that to your rooms, to your documents tab, and then put the stipulations on that page. Or what you can do is you can wait till you get to the envelope and you can add a text box there where you're actually able to edit the font size so you could fit more stipulations in that text box. Now, if you have a 7-point font, you're probably not going to be the most favorite co-op agent. But as long as you're protecting your client, excuse me, but as long as you're protecting your client, you're good to go. So those are the two different options for how you can add more stipulations. And I'll show you how to add that text box in the envelope. So we have our stipulations here. So scrolling down, we'll see my client's information as seller 1 is here and seller 2. One thing I want to point out is that because we have our client's email address in the details tab, the system is going to automatically add their email address to the purchase and sale agreement in every co-op form that has the email address included. Your first instinct, if it's like mine, is going to be, oh, I need to delete the email address here because I don't want the co-op agent to have my client's email address. Well, you don't want to do that because if you edit any of the pre-populated fields in a document, it makes that same edit in the details tab. So if I delete the information from the details tab here, or sorry, excuse me, if I delete the information from the purchase and sale agreement here, it's going to delete the email address out of the details tab. So then when I go to try to send an envelope, there's not going to be an email address associated with that contact or with my client. So there is a workaround that I will show you in the envelope where we can black out the email address. It's not the most pretty looking thing to do, but it does protect your clients if you are concerned about sharing their information with the co-op agent. So scrolling down, again, we'll fill in the rest of our information that we have here, 404, 531, 5708, membership, Atlanta, fax number, MLS office code, KWFA01, and then brokerage, 3313. Now, like I said before, you could go through and you could fill in all the co-op agent information, which if I'm trying to make my offer stand out amongst the multiple offers that this listing agent would receive, I would go ahead and I'd fill in their information as thoroughly as possible. But again, I want to just remind you, and I'll remind you in just a moment as well, don't send the documents to the co-op agent from within DocuSign. But if you add their information, it's just one less thing for them to have to do. So this makes it a little bit easier. All right, so I filled in all the information for my offer, all my client's information, my information. So I'm going to click Save and Close. All right, so now we can send our envelopes. The way you send documents for signature in DocuSign is through an envelope. And the way that Michael New explained it to me, and I think it's a really great analogy, so I like to share it, is think of an envelope in DocuSign like a manila envelope on your desk. And so you've gone through, you have all of your papers of your listing agreement and your purchase and sale agreement, and you have them all organized, and you want to put them in a manila envelope to keep them safe, so that when you see your client, you can hand it to him or her and say, here are the documents for this transaction. Can you please review and sign? It's that same thing here in DocuSign. You're just packaging up those documents to send for review and signature. There are two ways that you can create an envelope. The first way is when you roll your mouse over a document, you can select the document by clicking on the circle in the top left-hand corner, and you can select all the documents that you would want. And if you scroll up to that toolbar that appears, you can select on the DocuSign icon. That will then automatically take those documents and create an envelope with those selected documents. That's way number one. Way number two is click on the Envelopes tab, and in the top right-hand corner, select New. And this is going to drop us into an envelope. So this is what the screen would look like if you had selected the documents from within the Documents tab. But I wanted to show you the more manual way, just so you have a more thorough understanding of how to create an envelope. So like everything, we start at the top and we'll work our way down. So for envelope name, you want to give this a name that you can remember. Throughout a transaction, you're going to send numerous envelopes. You could send probably 10, 20, 30 envelopes in a transaction. Every time you need to get something signed, you'll send a new envelope. So name it something that you can remember. So I'm going to do 567 Main Street listing agreement. and purchase and sale agreement. The envelope name is just for you. It's not going to be shared with your clients, but I do recommend that you don't do anything profane or anything that your clients might be, get embarrassed that they saw. So I'm going to do 567 Main Street listing agreement and purchase and sale agreement, so I know exactly what's in this envelope. Now I'm going to add documents to the envelope. There are 3 buttons here. The first one is room documents. So this is where we can add documents from the room, from the documents tab. We have use a template. So if you need to use a template like the wire fraud prevention and affiliated marketing, those are considered a template. So you use a template button to find those, or more if you want to upload one from your computer or any other drive that you've connected. So first I'm going to select room documents. And when you do this, it's going to show you every single document that you have in the room. Now, because we're just getting started in this transaction, it's only going to show the 4 documents that I actually need. So I'm just going to select all the 4. But just keep in mind that as you start getting more and more documents and more signatures, there are going to be a lot more documents in the room. So you just have to pay extra careful attention when you're selecting the documents to make sure that you are adding the correct one to the room. So I'll click Add Selected. And now it's going to load those 4 documents into this envelope. And you'll notice that it's adding them in alphabetical order, and we'll be able to reorder them in just a moment. Now, I also want to add in my affiliated marketing and wire fraud prevention disclosure. So I'm going to click on Use a Template. And then I'm going to select Shared with Me, because these are going to be the templates that the MCA office has shared with me and with the entire First Atlanta office. So let's give this a second to load. Now scrolling down, you'll see here we have buyer affiliated marketing and buyer wire fraud disclosure. And I'll scroll down a little bit more, and then you'll see we have a seller version of those same documents. It is very important that when you are adding these documents to your to your envelope, that you select the correct version, because the signature fields are mapped to those pre-tagged roles and those roles that we've added in from the details tab. So since I'm working on the listing side, I have seller 1 and seller 2 as my client, so I'm going to select the seller version of those documents. If you select the incorrect version of the documents based on which side of the transaction you're working, when you go to send these to your clients, they won't have anywhere to sign because their role will not be mapped properly to the document. So I add my seller or my affiliated marketing wire fraud. This is also where you'd come to get your pay at close if you need a W-9, a wire request. All those documents are here. So I'm going to click Add Selected, and it's going to add those 2 documents to my envelope. All right. So now we have all of our documents, but they're in kind of a wonky order. They just kind of got put in alphabetical order of when they were added. I want to make sure that when I send this to my clients, though, they sign it in a specific order. I want them to sign that listing agreement and all the disclosures before they sign a purchase and sale agreement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reorder them. The only time that you are able to reorder the documents to send for signature is here when you're creating the envelope. Once we click Next and we go into the editor, you're not able to reorder them. So make sure you do it now in this page. So to rearrange your documents, just move your mouse over the document you want, hold your mouse down, and drag it into the position that you would like. So we'll start with the seller listing agreement. Then I like to go with the seller's property disclosure next. Then we'll leave the community association disclosure. Then we'll go with wire fraud prevention. And then I want my affiliated marketing next. And then my purchase and sale agreement would be last. So now I've put these documents in the correct order that I want my client to see them, to review, and to sign them. Because I need to make sure that the signature for the listing agreement is added to the document before a purchase and sale. If you want to upload a document from a co-op agent or a document that you have saved on your desktop, you can select More and then click on Upload, and you'd be able to add that document from your computer. All right, so now that we've named our envelope, we've added our documents and put them in the correct order for signature, now we need to add recipients to the envelope. So who do we want to send this envelope to? So to do that, you click on the Add Recipient button. You'll get a drop-down menu of 3 options. Please hear me very clearly right here. Always select pre-tagged roles when it's available. All of the signature fields and data entry fields on all of the documents are mapped to pre-tagged roles based on the roles that we've added our clients to in the Details tab. If you do not select pre-tagged roles, they will not be able to sign the forms properly, and they will not be able to fill in the information properly on the disclosures. So always select pre-tagged roles. So I'm going to select pre-tagged roles, and this pop-up is going to show up, and it's going to have every single field that is available in all the documents. The list here in the middle of the documents is just all the documents that have a signature or field for it. So seller 1, I'm going to come to the drop-down menu on the right-hand side, and I'm going to select Tony Stark. For seller 2, excuse me, I'm going to select Pepper Potts. And then for listing agent, I'm going to select myself. Now you're probably going to be in there twice, which is fine because you're going to be in there as agent owner of the room, but then you also have added yourself as a listing agent or the buyer's agent. So I'll select myself as a listing agent. Now remember what I told you earlier, if you wanted to, you could add the co-op agent's information. That's fine, you can add the co-op agent's information to the documents, but please, under no circumstances, do not add the co-op agent here to send for signature, because it'll ultimately end up with that document not be considered a completed document. So do not add them here. You'll want to, you'll feel compelled to, but please don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Add Selected. And now it's going to add those recipients to my envelope. Just give it a second to load. All right. So we have each one of our recipients from the pre-tagged roles. And you'll notice here on the left-hand side, there's a box with a 1 on it. That box to the left of each recipient is the signing order for that person. You can adjust the signing order, which means that if you want someone to sign the document first and then go to someone else second and then someone else third, you can do that. The benefit for that, so for the listing agreement, is the disclosures are mapped to seller 1. So I want to make sure that seller 1 is the first person to sign because I want Tony to go through and fill in all those documents first before they go to seller 2, Pepper Potts, for her to review and make sure all that information is correct before she signs. So I'm going to update her to number 2. And then myself, I want to be the last agent or last person to sign, because then I can make that listing agreement binding without having to do some funny workarounds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to update myself to be signer number 3. Oh, excuse me. Signer number 3. And then I'm going to select Pepper to be signer number 2. So now it won't be until Tony completes his transaction or his signing that it will go to Pepper and then myself. Then within each one of the recipients' boxes, we have this drop-down menu that says need to sign. There are different options, and this is going to be the responsibility or the role that this person has. It will default to needs to sign, but you could also send as needs to view, receives a copy, or specify recipient. So the time that you may select receives a copy is if you're sending a document out for signature, and it's going to be binding. You've already been negotiating back and forth with the co-op agent, and you just need everyone's final signatures. Once everyone is signed, you could maybe add your closing attorney or your lender to receive a copy of the document directly out of DocuSign, so they're notified immediately of your binding document. To the right of that is the More button, and we have 2 options. We have Add Access Authentication and Add Private Message. Let's say you're working with a client who's very uncomfortable with e-signatures. They're afraid that someone's going to hack into their email and then is going to start signing all of these purchase and sale agreements, and they're going to end up going under contract for all these houses that they didn't intend to. Well, you can add an access authentication code that's going to prevent that from happening. So let's say you want to give, Tony's a little hesitant, so I'll say, hey Tony, I'm going to add this access authentication code So that way you have to fill in this code before you can start signing. So I can just type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I can send as a text message or let him know over the phone, hey, Tony, when you receive your documents through DocuSign, please type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the system before you're able to start signing. So it's just one extra level of security so Tony knows that he and only he will be able to review and sign those documents. Now, I don't want to actually use that authentication code, so I'll click discard. But the other option is add private message. So this is going to add a message that will go only to Tony. So an example is for Tony, he's mapped as seller 1, which means that he's going to be the one that's responsible for filling in all of the information on the seller's property disclosure and the community association disclosure. So I'm going to say, hi, Tony. Please be sure to fill in all the info for the SPD and CAD. Now, I'm just using initials for today. I wouldn't recommend that you use that when working with your actual clients before clicking finish. Thank you, Nick. All right, so I had a question, so let me check that. Will signer 2 be able to see what signer 1 has filled in for the text remarks? Yes, Nancy, that's a great question. So the reason I prefer to have seller 1 be the first signer when filling in the disclosures is so then that way, when it goes to signer 2, or seller 2, excuse me, for this instance, Pepper will be able to see all the fields that Tony filled in. So it'll just be another second set of eyes on that document. And at which point seller could say, hey, Nick, I saw Tony put in the house was built in 1999. It was actually built in 2000. Or I saw that he forgot to write a remark about the water damage we had in the basement. Because we want to make sure that these documents are filled in as accurately and honestly as possible. So by having Pepper be seller 2, she'll see all the information. And I'll show you that in just a minute. All right, so we have our private message for Tony, seller 2, Pepper Potts needs to sign, and then myself as the listing agent for signer 3. So we're good to go there. Now we want to write a quick message to our recipients. So I would say please DocuSign, so that way they know that there is a form here for them to sign. And I'm going to type in the property address, Main Street, and I'm going to do listing agreements and purchase and sale. Just so that way they know the exact documents, because at this point you should have had a conversation with them and let them know, hey, I'm going to email over the listing agreements for your review and signature, as well as the purchase and sale agreement, or whichever set of documents you are going to send over. And I'll just type a message that says, hi, Tony and Pepper, please review and sign the documents for your listing at 567 Main Street. Please let me know what questions you have. Thank you, Nick. So just have a quick little message in there so they know, okay, this is from me. They need to review the documents and sign them. So another question, seller 2 does not have the ability to edit what seller 1 puts in those documents. Correct. So Pepper, as signer 2, will only be able to see what Tony put in the disclosures, but she won't actually be able to edit what Tony put in there, which is why it's important that when you are discussing with your clients and you're preparing to send them the documents for signature, make sure they confirm who they want to be the person to fill in the information versus who they want to review. Now, that doesn't mean if there's a mistake that you couldn't go back and edit it or resend it, but just to know that signer 2 will not be able to edit any of those fields. All right, so we've created our envelope. We've given our envelope a name. We've added our documents from the room as well as from the templates folder, and we rearranged them in the correct signing order that we want our clients to review and sign in. We've added recipients to the envelope, and we selected pre-tagged roles. And I reiterated how important it is to select pre-tagged roles to make sure that all the signing fields are correctly assigned to each individual. I put them in the specific order. And then I've also added a quick note here so that my clients know that they need to review and sign these documents. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to click on the next button, and that's going to take us into the envelope editor, and that's where we'll be able to see where all the signature fields are, double check to make sure they're mapped correctly, and add any missing fields. So click Next. And we'll give this a second to load. Now there's a lot of information in here, so I'm going to walk you through the layout of this page before we actually start doing anything. So starting in the top left-hand corner, we have a back button. So if you ever need to get out of this page, you can click back. The system does automatically save any changes that you make about like every 30 seconds to a minute. So it should, all the changes you make here should be saved in this envelope. We have our name of the envelope here, or the email. Below that, you'll see we have our seller one's name, Tony Stark, with a yellow circle to it. And you'll notice all the standard fields below are highlighted that same color yellow. Well, there's a drop down here with each one of the signing participants or recipients. And so you can see I can select Pepper Potts. And when I do that, all the standard field colors change to blue. And I select myself and they all change to purple. That is so as you're going through the document, you can easily differentiate which field is assigned to which signer. And it also makes it easier that if you need to add a field, I can easily add a signature field that will automatically be assigned to myself. So I'm going to come back to Tony, and you'll see we have a bunch of standard fields here. We have a signature, initial, date signed, name, email, company title, text, checkbox, drop-down, radio, and payment item. And then there's formula. There's a bunch more down here, but you probably won't end up having to ever use those. I wouldn't worry about it. So these are going to be the main fields that you use here. There's also some additional custom fields if you need to, notary fields, and then markup tools. Markup tools is what we're going to use to hide our client's information in just a moment. All right. So then in the middle here, you can see is an example, or the is the actual document with all the information. So we can give it a double check. You can scroll down, and then I'll scroll down really quickly and I'll show you what the signature fields look like. So if I scroll all the way down to the bottom of the exclusive seller listing agreement, so you can see here are the check boxes that I added in the documents tab. Here are the stipulations that I added to our listing agreement. And if I scroll down, you can see here we have seller one signature, seller two signature. And if I scroll down, here's my signature as a listing agent automatically on there. All right. So that is what we can see in the middle of the screen. And then on the right-hand side are thumbnails. So you can go through and you can just, if you need to quickly get to a single page, because it does take the time to scroll through, you can get to the thumbnail and it'll show you with these with the tabs on the top corner of it. And that is to signify, similar to if you were signing a document from a lawyer, that there is a signature field on this page and the color corresponds with who is responsible for signing on this page. So I can see here on page 8 of my listing agreement, there's a field for seller 1, seller 2, and myself. And you can do the same thing for the seller's property disclosure. So you'll see here, there's a tab with a yellow color that lets me know that there's a field for seller 1 for Tony Stark on this page. Same thing for wire fraud prevention. You'll see seller 1, seller 2 colors. So you can get an idea. And this way just, excuse me, it makes it really easy to jump from page to page without having to scroll. So the thumbnails are very helpful. All right, so let me come back up to my sellers or my listing agreement. So everything looks good to go here. So I'm going to scroll through. I'm just, well, real quick, what I want to point out, I see I have a question, so let me answer that. What about the sellers, buyers that have the same email? Will the doc be the same? So you should be able to set them up as seller 1 and seller 2 and still have the same email address. And so it would wait for the first person to sign. So let's say it's Nancy and Pepper, or sorry, excuse me, Tony and Pepper at gmail.com. It'll go to Tony and Pepper at gmail.com. And then I'll select Tony, hey, Tony, sign first, and go through and review all the information filled in. And then once he clicks finish, it would then send another email to Tony and Pepper at gmail.com. And then Pepper would be able to sign. When the binding part signed, receipt of copy of this agreement. So I'm going to show Michelle, I'm going to show you how to do that right now for the listing agreement. So what you can do, since I set myself up third to as a third signer and the last signer, I can make these fields to make this listing agreement binding right then and there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the top left-hand corner. I'm going to select myself because I want to make sure that all the fields that I add over here on the left-hand side are assigned to me. And I'm going to select text. I'm just going to add a text box here, and I'm just going to format it so it fits. So you'll see when I add a text box or add a field, this menu pops up in the right-hand side. You'll see it shows the recipient, who it is assigned to, and then it is automatically going to be a required field. What required field means is that when this document is being reviewed and signed by myself, the system is going to stop me to make sure that I fill in something in this text box before it allows me to complete the document. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, just format that. Now I want to add another text box here, so I can add AM or PM. So just format that to fit here. And then I can also add the date signed field right here, and then I'll automatically add the date. So what will happen is Tony will sign, Pepper will sign, and then I will sign. The system will have me stop to fill in the time, date and time of this document, because then once I complete signing, DocuSign will send an email out to everybody and say, here's a copy of all the signed documents for your records. So that's just one step less that we have to do of sending copies to our clients afterwards. And this makes it super easy so that I don't have to go back in, how we in .loop, you had to, save as PDF and then add the date and time. You don't have to do any of that because it'll already be done before it is saved as PDF. Yeah, so it's one of my favorite parts too, Michelle. It makes things super simple. All right, so we have our listing agreement. Everything's good to go here. Now we're going to get to our seller's property disclosure. Now, remember I mentioned to you earlier that all those fields are mapped to seller one. Well, if you scroll down here, you'll see all these boxes are highlighted yellow. So I'm just going to click on it because I want to point out that when you click on it, it is assigned to Tony Stark, so seller one, but it's not a required field. I want to point that out because when you send the seller's property disclosure, lead-based paint, or community association disclosure to your clients, the system is going to jump from required field to required field to required field, which more often than not will be signature, signature, signature. That being said, if your client, you have to let him or her know, hey, when you're going through the signing process, make sure that you go through and you scroll up to fill in the actual fields of the disclosures. Otherwise, they're just going to click sign, 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 and then finish, and they're going to say, hey, Nick, I wasn't able to fill in the information for the seller's property disclosure. Can you resend it? Well, it's not a question of they weren't able to. It was just that they didn't know they had to scroll back up and fill it in. A simple trick that you can do to make sure that the system stops and lets them know that they need to fill in this information is click on this first field here. So for the seller's property disclosure, what year was the main residential dwelling constructed? Click text, and you can make that required. So this will stop the system, or the system, excuse me, will stop Tony when he's filling in the information, say, hey, you need to fill in this before you can go anywhere else. And it's going to make it then much easier for him to go through and fill in the rest of the fields. Now, I wouldn't make any of these radio buttons required or anything. And you could if you wanted to, but it'd just be a lot simpler if you just made this one field required. So that's a little trick that you can use to make sure that your seller doesn't bypass all these fields. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to continue to scroll. You see all these fields are mapped yellow to seller one. And we'll keep scrolling, still mapped yellow. And then here we have seller one signature, seller two signature. Good to go there. I'm going to keep scrolling to the our community association disclosure. Now the same thing here, all of these fields are mapped yellow. Now what I would do here is, because there's a lot of different options up here, is that you can make the name of association, click on that text box and make that required. So again, the system will make Tony stop to fill in the name of association, and then it'll be much easier for Tony to come here and select which type of association they have and what those fees are affiliated with the HOA. Is this something that you would do for each listing agreement or can be added as default? So it is something that you would have to do for each listing agreement. You would just have to kind of set each one of these first boxes as required. But I promise, Tommy, once you do it once, you'll get the habit and it's very simple. So again, we'll see all these text boxes are assigned to Tony. So just scrolling down, keep scrolling, still everything's assigned. And then we have our seller signature, our initials there. Perfect. So now we have our wire fraud disclosure. Now, for whatever reason, for First Atlanta agents, the text boxes for this always get moved down. So I'd recommend just drag them back up. But it has their name and their date signed. And the same thing for the affiliated marketing. Oh, this is interesting. It didn't have the signature fields here. So I'm going to come over here and I'll select Tony. And I'll add signature right here. And I'm going to align that black line with the signature field with the black line of the field. And then I'm going to add the date signed right here. I'll select Pepper. Signature, I'm going to add her signature right here. And then date signed. Perfect. So now when I send it, they'll be able to stop here and sign both these documents. One of the benefits of live training, you can troubleshoot right here. So we're scrolling down and we're going to go to our purchase and sale agreement. So we'll just double check to make sure all the information is filled in correctly. So if you remember, I added a comma there for the purchase price, but the system takes it out. So just be mindful of that. But it allows the comma in the contribution and closing costs. So who knows? Everything looks good. Perfect. We have our seller initials there. Scrolling down. Let's keep scrolling for a second till we get to our stipulations, because I promised I would show you one of the workarounds for the stipulations. So see, I have a question here. Where do you find the X that is required field? So Nancy, so if you're asking, if you're like, oh, let's say you're going through this, the purchase and sale agreement, and you're like, oh, poop, I forgot to add in the sale or lease of prop buyer's contingency exhibit. So what you can do is you can come up here, select yourself or whomever, but I imagine you don't want to do it yourself, so you can just go ahead and do it. You would select the checkbox, and then I would come over here and I would add that checkbox right there. Now, when you have the checkbox, you have that menu that'll pop up, and if you come over here to checkbox values, if you click the check, it'll check it for you. So you have to come over to checkbox values in that menu for it to add that checkbox. And then obviously we'd want to make sure that we added our exhibit letter. So I'll just add a text box here. And I'm going to make this exhibit E. Now, one thing I want to point out is because I forgot to add this in the room, and I'm adding here in the envelope, I'm going to uncheck required field and I want to make it read only. And the reason I want to make it read only is because that'll make sure that this text box of E appears every single time someone signs it. So it's not going to be something that'll be only assigned to myself. I can do the same thing here. I can make that read only as well. I didn't see the box filled in at the bottom of the purchase and sale that usually has the agent's name and who drafted the document. All right, so you were talking about, let me come over here, purchase and sale, on the bottom of page 1, correct? So right here where it says, this form is copyrighted and may only be used in real estate transactions in which blank is involved as a real estate licensee. Now, if you wanted to, you could come over here and you could select your name and you could put that there. And you may want to change the formatting so it's a smaller font. So change that to 7-point font so it fits a little bit better. You can add that there if you want to. However, your name and brokerage is going to automatically populate in the bottom left-hand corner. And it has been confirmed with me that your name and brokerage name here in the bottom left-hand corner is sufficient to let everyone know that you have the right to use this copywritten form. So you don't technically have to do anything, but you can if you'd like. All right, so I'm going to scroll back down to the special stipulations page. So I added the checkbox here and added the exhibit letter. Now I promised I'd show you how you could add more stipulations. So what you can do is you can come here and you can select a text box, and you can format that text box to take up as much space as you want. And then you can start typing. Let me change this to 9-point font. You can just start typing here, adding more stips, more, lots of them, lots and lots, even more. Perfect. So you can see now I've filled in this whole box of stipulations. But let's say I have a ton of stipulations and they don't fit. I can highlight them all. I can come over here to formatting and I can select 7-point font. Let me do that again, because it should make it smaller. Let me try. Let's make it bigger. Why is this not? All right, well, you should be able, I don't know why it's not working. Oh, required field. Let me change this. There we go, read only. That's why, because it was required is gonna be able to be edited in the, when I go to sign, but if you make it read only, which is what you should do, select all, and then you can change the font size down to font 7. And now I could come through here if I needed to and add even more, lots, and lots, and it fits. So that's what I was saying. You may not be the most popular co-op agent for your co-op agent or the closing attorney, but you could fit a lot more special stipulations if you change the font to 7-point font and you make it a read-only text box. So that's one way to work around the special stipulations box being fairly small in the Documents tab. When does it run out of space, or does it go to page 2? So it would run out of space when you click out of here. You would see that some of the text would be cut off, and it wouldn't automatically go to a second page. You would have to add the additional special stipulations page. All right. So scrolling down to our signature fields, you'll see here we have seller 1, seller 2, and then there's my seller 1's email address and my seller 2's email address. Well, I mentioned to you earlier, I don't like sharing my information or my client's information with a co-op agent, so I want to black it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to markup tools on the left-hand side, which looks like a little pencil. I'll select that, and I'm going to select a line. And then I'll come over here to my client's email address, and I'm just going to draw a line right over it. Now, the menu on the right-hand side gives me a couple different options. I'll select color. I'm going to change that to black. And I'm going to select the thickness, and I'm going to make that 10. And I can just kind of shift it over to make sure I hide all of the email address properly. Now, one thing that's really cool within DocuSign is that rather than having to go back over here and make another line, I can just copy and then paste. And I can just drag this second line and cover my other seller's information, and I can drag it to make it just a little bit bigger. Perfect. So now my client's email addresses are protected from the co-op agent. Now, 9 times out of 10, your co-op agent is going to be very, very respectful of the relationship that you have, but you never know. And I always say it's better to be safe than sorry. And it is my fiduciary responsibility to protect my clients, and hiding their contact information and protecting them is one way. So that's how you add or protect your client's contact information. Scroll down. We'll want to make sure that my signature field is here and good to go. Now, because this is going to be my initial offer, I don't want to add that same binding agreement date information that I did for the listing agreement. So now we have everything all set up for signature. Before we send, we can come up here to recipient preview. And this is going to show us really quickly what a preview is going to look like for each one of the signers. And in the middle here, we can select if we want to look at a preview from a computer, a tablet, and a mobile phone. So if your clients are out and about, let's say they're at dinner and you need to get this multiple offer situation in immediately, you can say, hey, you can sign on your phone. It's going to be really hard to read, but it'll let you sign. So there's no excuse. And then if you want to see what it looks like for each client, you can click their drop-down name or their name from the drop-down, and it'll go through the different steps of what it's going to look like for them to sign. So this is exactly what it's going to be like. And you'll see here, it stops on what year was this house built and type in, and then now makes it so much easier for them to fill in. Now this is just a preview. This isn't the actual signing, but I just wanted to let you know that you can double check this before you send it, just to make sure that all the fields are in there correctly. So I'm going to click X because I want to get out of that. I'm going to come back to the editor, and now I want to click send because I want to actually send this document out for signature. So it's sending. Perfect. So now I'm in the envelope. It defaults me back in the envelope and it lets me know that it's waiting for others to sign. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my Gmail. Let me just come to my KWFA Tech Gmail because this is the email address that I use for Tony. So you'll see here is the email address. It says, please DocuSign 567 Main Street. Open this up. And then you'll see here's that message, private message for just Tony. Please be sure to fill in all the info for the seller's property disclosure and community association disclosure before clicking finish. And then here's my note for both of them. So Tony clicks on review documents. This is going to be exactly what it's like for your clients. Agree to use electronic records and signature, continue. So he'll click start, and it's going to jump to that first required field, which is the signature for the listing agreement. Now he can scroll up if he wants to and read through it. So he has that option, and scroll back down and then click sign. It's going to ask him to confirm what signature he wants to use. He can draw one or upload one if he wants to use something different. So click adopt and sign. And then it's going to jump to that next required field. Now remember, on the seller's property disclosure, I made this first field required. So it's going to make Tony stop here and fill in that information. So if he doesn't click next, he now is right here and he can start filling in all these fields. And he can just tab through them and then select yes, no, info, yes. I'm not actually paying attention to what I'm clicking, but you can just see this is what Tony will need to do. So it's that simple. Let's do public. So that easy. And then I'm not going to fill in all these just for the sake of time. Come through here. And let me just click a bunch of these really fast. Because I'm going to show you what it looks like when Pepper goes to sign in just a minute. Perfect. All right. So I scroll down. Now we can click sign. And now it's going to stop here at the name of the HOA association. So I'm just going to type in HOA name. And then I can easily scroll up and say, okay, there's a mandatory membership association. And it's $1,000. And it's paid in 4 installments. There's no voluntary, no master. And then I can put name of person, company, 404-414-8238, email at email.com, 1234 Main Street. So he can go through and he can fill in all this information. It's going to be a lot easier since we set that first field as required. So the system is going to stop for Tony. All right, so I'm scrolling down, continue to fill in. He can initial, sign, initial, sign. Now you see here, there's all those special steps and they're the 7-point font. So you can see them all. And if I scroll up, you can see where I added sale or lease of property contingency, Exhibit E. And because I made it read only, it becomes available for everyone to see. So once Tony's done, last thing, you can see here, it blacked out his email address. So it won't be seen by anybody. Once he's done, your client must click finish. If they do not click finish, the system will not register that Tony is finished to then send to Pepper. They can click no thanks. They don't need to create an account. And that's when they'll get the you're all done screen. And that's how they know they have finished signing completely. So now let me come back over here. Oh, excuse me. Let me just delete this. I'm going to open up my personal Gmail account, which is the account for Pepper. So I'll click on that. we'll see here, please DocuSign, 567 Main Street. Scroll down, here's the message for Tony and Pepper. You notice that there is not that message about the Community Association Disclosure or SPD. So she can click Review Documents. Then we'll click Agree to Use Electronic Records, Continue, click Start, click Sign. It's going to have her confirm her signature and initials. Click Adopt and Sign. Now, it just jumped all the way through that seller's property disclosure because she's not required to fill in any information. But I want to scroll up to show you that here you can see all the fields that Tony filled in. So all the yeses and nos and the additional information he provided. So that way, Pepper could go through and she could double check all the information that Tony filled in to make sure that it's correct, accurate, and honest. So here, oh, see, Pepper could say, oh, Tony forgot to fill in the HVAC system. We're going to need to make a quick fix to that afterwards. So you can see all the little check boxes and stuff that he put in. Scrolling down, see there's all the items that he's checked to stay. There's his signature. So Pepper will sign. She'll initial the Community Association disclosure. You can see here's all the information that he filled in, all those fields. She can click Initial, Sign, Sign, Initial, and Sign. And then Pepper will click Finish. No, thank you. And then she'll get the You're All Done page. And then let me come over here and I'm going to open up my KW email because now as the agent, I now receive an email that says, please DocuSign. And now it's my turn to sign. So I'll click Review Documents. I'll click Continue, Start. It's going to have me sign the listing agreement. And then it's going to stop because now I get to make this document binding. So I'll make it 12 p.m. on the date of August 7th, and then click Next. And it's going to send me to sign the purchase and sale agreement. And now I'm done. And so now it's my turn to click Finish. I don't want to log in. No thanks. I already have a login. I'm all done. So you can see all three of us received the You're All Done message. And it's very important that your client sees that, because without that, the system will not send that document on to the next person for signature. So we can click Delete here. And now you'll see that as soon as I'm done signing, it says completed, please DocuSign. And then here's the form. I'm going to click on into Tony's email and he'll receive that same email, completed, please DocuSign. And here are the PDFs of those forms. And they're all right there in the email. So that way you don't actually have to send those forms to your clients as attachments later on. The date was cut off where you signed. Will that delete from the final page? Yes. But I think it was just the actual timestamp and not the actual date. So you'll be fine. You'll be good to go there. All right, so I'm going to come back into my DocuSign account. Let me get in here. I have to move it around the Zoom windows. So I'll click Refresh. And now it'll show that envelope as completed. I can come in here and I can see the exact time that each one of the parties signed. Now I'm going to go into my Documents tab. And as I mentioned to you earlier, everything defaults into the Room Docs folder. So I'll scroll down here and you'll see I now have all these documents that have green checkboxes that say signed on them. Those are all the signed copies and they are PDFs. So in .loop, if you remember, once everybody signed the document, that document was still editable. And so if you were about to make a change, it would give you a notification that said, hey, you're about to change this document, that will delete the signatures. Well, in DocuSign, when someone signs a document, it becomes a PDF. So if I scroll down, I can't do anything. These initials aren't going anywhere. It is signed document. So I want to move all these documents that are attached to the listing agreement into the listing agreement folder. So I'm going to select them all. I'm going to click Move. right here. I'm gonna select folders, current room, listing agreements, move. Perfect. So now I have all my documents organized. This is just a certification of the time that everyone signed them. So let's say, for instance, I do want to manually send these documents to my clients. Well, I don't want to send them, what is this, 5 documents. I want to combine it into one document. It's just so much easier for my clients to review. So to do that, you would roll your mouse over the signed document icon, select it, do that for all the ones that have the green check boxes. So I'm just going to do it just for the listing agreements. So I have all 5 documents for my listing agreement signed. I'm going to scroll up to the toolbar and I'm going to click on combine. And then it's going to give me the option to take all 5 documents and save them as a single PDF. And I'm going to name this 567 Main Street signed listing agreement. All right. Now I want to put it in a specific order. So you just click on the name of the document and drag it into the order that you would like. Then we want seller's property disclosure, and community association, affiliated marketing, and wire fraud. And then click save. And then the page will reload. And then as promised, this document will now be available to us as a single PDF in the Room Docs folder, because everything defaults into the Room Docs folder, and then we'll drag it back up into the listing agreement folder. So here I now have my single document that now has all multiple documents saved as a single PDF. And to download it, just click on the document actions button in the top right-hand corner, and you can click download, or you can select a document here, and then from the toolbar, click the download button. Now, let's say and I know we're at time, so I apologize for running slow today, but there's a few more things I'd like to show you before we go, and I promise I'll be really quick about it. Let's say, let me close this. Let's say you receive a document from your co-op agent and you need to add it to your room. You can click add and then select computer. And I'm just going to come over here. Let me just go to I don't know if you can actually see. I'm trying to go to some of my clients, sellers, and I'll just come over here. Contract. All right. So you can just add that. So I just added a random document from a previous transaction, and that will upload. And you'll see here it'll upload. So here we have seller 1903 Cannon Street seller's property disclosure, and I can now create an envelope and add a signature to that. Now let's say we receive a document from our co-op agent and it has all the documents in one. We would upload that. And then let's say, I'm just going to take this document, let's say this seller's property disclosure. I need to split this up into 4 different documents, because when I submit for things for compliance review in Command, they each have to be their own individual document. So what I'll do is I'll open the document, and then in the top right-hand corner, there's a document actions button, and you can come to split. And this will now allow me to take this document of 7 pages and split it into multiple PDFs. So I can select, let's do pages 1 through 2, and I can just name this signed agreement. I'm just making up names. Then we'll click on add a document, and then we'll make this pages 3 to 4. Oh, excuse me. And this will be another document. And then we'll do page 5, 3rd document. And then we'll do our 4th document, which will be pages 6 through 7. And you'll see when you put in the page numbers, it highlights which pages you're looking at. And if you need to figure out what the exact page is, you can kind of roll your mouse over and it'll give you an idea of what that document is. And then we'll name this 4th doc. And then once you're good, click save. The page will reload, and in our Room Docs folder, everything's going to be in alphabetical order. So you'll see we have another document, 4th document, signed agreement, and 3rd document. So that's how you can split those documents into a single document into separate PDFs. So now we need to submit for compliance review. So everything is good to go here. I'm going to come back into command. All right. So now I need to start adding my listing agreements, and you can add in, there's multiple ways that you can add these documents. You can come over to the right-hand side and click add a file, and you can do it one by one. And then you can select DocuSign forms. And I can select the folder from the listing agreement folder because I organize that separate. And then here's a list of all the forms in that document. So I'm going to scroll down to the exclusive seller listing agreement signed PDF. So I select that and click sign, and it automatically adds it. Now, let's say I want to attach multiple items because I don't want to go through all this every single time. I can come up here, I can select DocuSign as the source, and then I can come down to the community association disclosure, and I can scroll down. So here's my listing agreement folder, and I can look for the community association disclosure signed. Select that. Seller's property disclosure. Do the same thing, scroll down. Seller's property disclosure signed. Then we'll do Rawls Group affiliated marketing. And that should be affiliated marketing signed. And then wire fraud. So we'll just scroll all the way down. Wire fraud signed. And then click attach. And it's that simple. Now, let's say I want to add a document that I didn't have a field for here. I can click add item. I can give this a name. Let's just say document number 10. Document type. It doesn't matter which one you select. Just select the one that's most relevant. Then I would select add a DocuSign as source of documents. And then root folder, let's scroll down to, and let's add our fourth doc here. That's the one that I want to add. And I'll click save. And it's going to add that document down here. Once you've added all the documents for your listing agreement, and you can go through and you can add the ones for the purchase and sale, you can click submit to MC, and that's what's going to submit all these files to Lynn for review. You also at the same time need to submit a green sheet because at least at First Atlanta, we're still using green sheets at the time being instead of the commissions tab. One thing I want to show you really quickly is that let's say this house was listed. Actually, let me come over here. I'm going to come to under contract. Let me just add my purchase and sale agreement really quickly. So I'll select DocuSign as sources documents. I'll scroll down here. Purchase and sale agreement signed. Click assign. Perfect. Because I'm the listing agent on this transaction. And let's say for whatever reason, the buyers terminate during due diligence. And I'm like, man, this really stinks. Well, I don't have to create a whole new opportunity because I have to somehow delete. I don't want to have to go through and remove all these documents. And I don't want to have to like create a whole new opportunity. What you do is right here in the middle of the page where it says under contract, select this down arrow and you can select add version. And then I can just name this under contract version 2, and this will create a new version. And now you'll see all of the fields will be empty. So this way, once I add all the documents to this, I can click submit to MC again, and it'll look like a whole new brand new transaction to Lynn for review. And if I ever needed to reference any of those previous documents, I can just go back to that version 1, and there it is. So it's another way that you can keep all of your documents in command. So let's say 3 years down the line, there's a question about that terminated contract, you can reference it. So that is training for DocuSign today. I know we're 7 minutes over. What questions do you have? What can I show you again? What do you need clarification on? Well, good, Nancy. I'm glad to hear that you didn't know what all those buttons were. Glad this was helpful. Any other questions? Anything you want to see that I didn't show you? Anything that you're missing? So I saved this video and I'm going to send it to Stacy, and she will share the link for the Atlanta Perimeter office, and I will share a link for the First Atlanta office this afternoon. So that way you guys can double check this. And then there's also a PDF step-by-step instructions that basically walks through everything we just did. and maybe a few other items that you can ask either myself or Stacy for. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me this morning. As you're going through and trying to play with DocuSign, let me know what questions you have. Please feel free to reach out. You can call me. You can email me and or text me, and I'm always happy to help. So, all right. Well, I am going to let you all go. I'm going to unshare my screen and stop recording, and I'll stick around for a minute. So have a great rest of your day.